Hey everyone, Effie here. Today I'm going to show you how I made this card for our 2017 anniversary release using our new fresh cut poppy set. So I'm going to start off by stamping the third layer of our poppies first, and then this is going to be stamped in our darkest color, which is our Aspen Cocoa. And then I'm going to stamp the first and second layer in Coral Cavern and Lipstick Red. After I finish stamping the petals, I'm going to stamp that black portion in the middle of the flower, and if it has that additional yellow portion of the poppy, I'm just going to stamp it in our Beach Blondie dye ink. So after I finish stamping the 3 poppies, I'm going to go ahead and stamp 2 of each of the leaves that come with the set. It comes with a larger leaf and a smaller leaf, and I'm just going to stamp 2 of them in our Crystal Garden dyeing collection. Our fresh cut poppy set also comes with additional stems and buds so that you can create fuller looking bouquets. For the cap of this bud, I stamped it in Beach Blondie, and then those black lines were stamped in our Noir dye ink. So I'm going to continue stamping additional buds because I'm going to need them for my bouquet later on. After I finish stamping everything, I'm just going to have everything cut by my electric cutting machine. This set does not have coordinating dies just yet, but I am working on it and they will be out very soon. So after I finish with my florals, I'm going to create a nice watercolor wash on some watercolor paper using blue and purple watercolor paint. I started off by putting down the blue paint and then I dropped in a little bit of purple, and as I painted or created this wash, I just dabbed off that excess watercolor paint coming down on the sides of my paper, and I continue to do that until I'm satisfied with my watercolor wash background. So at this point you can take your heat gun and dry your watercolor panel, which I do later on because I did set it aside hoping that it would just dry naturally, but when I got to that point in my card making process it wasn't fully dried, so I did take my heat gun and I just kind of heat set everything. So after I created my watercolor wash, I made my own glitter cardstock using our Glossy fine adhesive paper, and I'm using the gold one. We have it in silver, but I am partial to gold. So after I created my panel, I just created a border using the 2 largest dies in our double stitched rectangle dies, and this is going to go right above my watercolor panel later. After my panel was completely dried, I just took my aqua brush to flick on some black specks of watercolor paint onto the panel, and this is just going to add some nice interest. I didn't use the same paintbrush that I used earlier because the bristles were a little softer. The aqua brush has a little bit of more of a stiffness to the brushes, so it lends itself really well to this flicking technique. So after I finish with the watercolor panel, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the butterfly from our Flutter mini set, which is our incentive set for this release. After I stamped the body of the butterfly, I stamped the inside of the wings using the stamp that comes with the mini set. And I used the rock and roll technique to get that blended look. And I used our Beach Blondie and Peach Blossom inks to get that effect. After I finish stamping, I'm going to gold heat emboss the edges of my wings, and this stamp also comes in the mini flutter set. So our mini flutter set is actually a layering stamp set, and it comes in 3 parts. You can stamp the body and the inside of the wings and the edges of the wings separately, so you can get a really nice versatile look to it depending on what techniques you used. So after I finished with my butterfly, I did cut it out with my electric cutting machine, and then after I finished with that, I started assembling my poppies together. Whenever I make any floral arrangements on my cards, I'm always looking at a pre-arranged cluster that I had done earlier. So this will cut down on the time that it takes for you to actually assemble your florals, because I find that this takes kind of a long time. Once I created my cluster, I'm just going to erase all of the temporary adhesive at the tops of my florals with a rubber eraser. Next, I'm just going to trim my watercolor panel down just a tiny bit on each side so that it is slightly smaller than my framed border, and this is just going to make it easier for me to pop that frame above the panel. See, as you can see here, I didn't have any trouble at all. There was no panel sticking out from either side because that panel was a little smaller. So once I got the frame on, I'm just going to pop the cluster and the butterfly above my watercolor panel and the frame. Next, I'm going to heat emboss the sentiment, which comes in our Flutter Mini set. The Flutter Mini set is a really great versatile set because you have that layering ability, but it also comes with two really nice sentiments. After I finish with the sentiment, I cut it into a small banner and just adhered it right on top of my cluster. And then to finish off the card, I added some dewdrops in our 5 and 7 millimeter sizes, and then I adhered that panel onto a side folding A2 size card base, and the card is now complete. I thank you all for stopping by for day one of the Tons 2017 anniversary release. We have 29 new stamp sets and 7 new couture mixes to show you, so make sure you check out the rest of the blog post for the rest of the release. See you next time, guys.